Hi, this is Jack from Alpha Charts, and this is a new series that we're starting called Inside the Trader's Head. So this is going to be partly about trading psychology, partly about actual how people trade. Before we get started, this is for entertainment purpose or teaching purposes only. This is not recommendations to buy, sell, or hold any stock or security. All right. Today we have Richard Moglen. Very happy to have him as my first guest.
Happy to be
exciting. Here. Awesome. Thank you. So we know Richard, of course, from all his amazing interviews he's done on his YouTube channel. And I thought, everyone wants to know more about what he's like. So he's a perfect first guest. So thanks for being here, Richard. I really appreciate that.
No, happy to be here. I'm definitely not as experienced as a lot of people, but hopefully people get something of value out of this.
Awesome. All right. So let's start out. Just give a brief background on who you are, and we'll go from there.
Sure thing. So I guess my investing and trading journey starts actually about 2 years ago now. I took a class at the University of Maryland, and it was an honor seminar about technical analysis, CANSLIM methodology. My professor was Dr. Eric Wish, and the co-instructor was David McCandlish. And they basically taught about risk management, how to write your own rules. We actually had to write rules before we could actually participate in the kind of class competition. So I had to have a completely thorough set of rules that anybody could follow even before doing that exercise. And kind of the best part of the class actually was the final project, the final report, where we had to analyze all our trading from that class competition, find out what we were doing right, what we were doing wrong, and kind of update our rules based off those results. So I feel extremely lucky to have taken that class. It really kind of changed the course of my life, honestly. And I ended up being a TA and helping out for the next 3 semesters. So I not only took the class once, I kind of took it for four straight semesters, helping teach freshmen and other people in the honor seminar. So, and actually got my friends, a bunch of my friends actually to take it just because I liked it so much. So that class is really my start. And then I've learned from the Investing with IBD podcast, other people's videos on YouTube, including yours, Jack's, Pattern Profits on Twitter, a whole bunch of people. And we're getting into social media a little bit later. The Investing with IBD podcast, if I didn't mention that, Ticker Monkey, Trader Lion, there's so many different resources out there. And that's kind of where I've started. And I made a YouTube channel to kind of help teach others who maybe didn't have the same kind of access to a class like that at UMD. And also it's helped my trading immensely to have to explain something and talk about my process every single weekend, which I'm sure, Jack, you can relate to. So that's kind of my background. And outside of trading, I was a mechanical engineering undergrad, and I'm currently studying to get my master's at UMD while trading and making YouTube videos part-time. So yeah, that's kind of my background. If you have any other questions, Jack, anything more specific, just let me know.
Was there ever an aha moment as far as your trading goes? Was there anything that really hit?
Right. Well, I think it actually almost started that first day in the honor seminar class, where I realized how important it was to learn all of this stuff and how interested actually I was in investing and trading. And I think it was a chart, you've probably seen the same kind of compound interest chart, how just investing consistently year after year until retirement can really snowball and just lead to a nice nest egg to live off of retirement. And it kind of dawned on me how important this all was, and also how fun it was to analyze stocks, find the next big winners. And other than that, during my final reports, obviously, I've kind of found key mistakes that I've done over and over, entering extended, selling too early, which I'm still struggling with. And yeah, there's been a series of aha moments, but really it's just that first day that kind of ignited the passion. I think I took more notes that first day than any other class in college combined. So yeah, I think that's where it all started for me.
Cool, awesome. All right, so let's get into your trading week. What does your trading week look like? Like, where do you start your process?
Right, so it always starts on the weekend, and in preparation for the couple of videos that I make on YouTube, I have to kind of do my homework anyway. So it's kind of a win-win. It all starts by taking a look at my holdings on Friday or Saturday, looking at what percentage gain I have, what position size I have. And then it starts after that by taking a look at the market, taking a look at the market leaders, and basically determining what the market conditions are. Because as we've learned in CAN-SLIM methodology, the M is honestly the most important part. 3 out of 4 stocks follow the trend of the market. So it really pays to stay in tune with the market and bend your trading accordingly. And to analyze the market, I take a look at the indexes, the QQQ, the SPY, the IWM, the FFTY, which is a representation of growth stocks. But I also take a look, as I mentioned, at the market leaders, the kind of 30 to 50 stocks that kind of meet all the qualifications I look for in terms of a stock and are trending nicely. And if those are breaking down, that tells me something. But if they're breaking down to new all-time highs and bouncing off moving averages, again, that tells me a little bit that the market is pretty healthy and I can look for new opportunities. And after that point, once I've kind of looked at the market, do I want to increase my exposure next week if things work out? Then I start making my list of stocks I would like to trade. And this starts with screening in MarketSmith and starting with a strong fundamental base with good earnings and sales, fund ownership, all those key metrics that we learned in CAN-SLIM. And I basically go through 500 or so charts, pick out kind of my universe list, which is about 100, 150 of decent setups. And then once again, I do kind of a final cut where I break that down to a top 10, 15 names that I could look to enter that next week on Monday if it falls through a pivot or something else. So that's kind of my process. And the YouTube videos I make, the stock market outlook video, and also the weekly watch list video, it's literally me talking about my homework, talking about what I'm seeing in the market and what my kind of watch list is going to be for next week, and all the opportunities that I'm seeing that really kind of meet my system. So that's kind of my weekly routine. And do you want to know kind of about my daily routine as well?
Yeah, a little bit. Exactly.
Yeah, sure. So once I've got that plan, my kind of battle plan, the weekdays are all about execution of that plan. So obviously everything can change as we saw last week. If the market really breaks those the moving averages, I have to kind of move on to the defensive. But it's all about being prepared that weekend, knowing my pain points, the levels that I'm watching. And in the morning, I wake up, I check the futures, as a lot of people probably do. I check how my stocks are doing. And then once again, I kind of make a list. I go through my watch list and also the market leaders and look at what kind of they're doing in pre-market. Are they up? Are they gapping up, gapping down? And are they potentially actionable once that kind of market bell rings? And during the day, I've got a bunch of alerts set on the key stocks I'm watching, the holdings, and I'm looking to see if they're acting well relative to the market. Are they breaking last week's lows? All of this is kind of key information. And if there's a stock I'm interested in, I basically set an alert just under that pivot. So it basically pings me when maybe it's moving through, and then I check the volume. And if I do want to increase exposure, I'll pull the trigger in my brokerage software on the website. So that's kind of what I do intraday. And after the close, I'll check my positions once again and relax a little bit because sometimes it can be kind of stressful, and do a little bit of work, a little bit of screening and checking my positions and everything. But yeah, that's kind of my both weekly and daily routine. It's constantly evolving, and I've picked up things from you, Jack, and other people on Twitter who share their homework. And yeah, it's constantly evolving and hopefully improving at the same time.
Awesome. So when you talk about your universe of stocks and you want to whittle it down to a focus, a very tight focus list, is
Right.
it all based on technicals at that point?
Good question. It's mostly technicals. I want to know basically any stock that I have on my universe list is either what I call a market leader, and those are the highest quality of fundamentals and technicals. And it may be extended, it may be pulling back, but I also want to be watching that always. So those are always on my universe list. The other ones are stocks that I deem potentially actionable next week or in the next coming weeks. And Those have to have good technicals. So maybe they're pulling back to a key moving average on below average volume or are near pivot, something like that. There has to be something special about them that piques my interest. And I will go back and forth between DC 2000, which is my charting software, and MarketSmith. And I'll make sure that there's something special fundamentally about them as well. So did they have 999% earnings this past quarter? Are there estimates for next year 300% or something like that? Do they have enough funds in them for me to consider buying it? There has to be something special about it, either fundamentally or technically, and ideally both. I mean, the best combination is a stock with 100% earnings growth, 100% sales growth, that's setting up perfectly on below average volume right near pivot. That's kind of my goal. Obviously, no setup is perfect, but as close as I can get to that, the better.
Excellent. All right, perfect. All right, so switching gears just a little bit to
Mhm.
balance the rigors of trading, which we all go through. So what do you do outside of trading that kind of helps you do that?
Right. It's very important, I think, to stay centered and not get too stressed out about it. So I do a couple things. I think exercise is a very important thing. I have a bench where I lift and squat and bench upstairs, which is great. I also go to the park, play soccer. I hang out with my friends on Zoom or in person, socially distanced with masks, of course. And also hang out with my girlfriend, which is a great way to de-stress, watch a movie, go to a museum, going outside, I think, and away from the screens is incredibly important. The goal of trading is really to buy time, right? And you don't want to waste time just looking at a screen all day. So you want to try to find a balance. I feel like I'm relatively new, so I still have to kind of put in the work to make sure I've got a strong foundation. So I might be putting in a little bit more time here, but still, it's important, I think, to stay balanced and get away from the screens as much as possible, especially on the weekends. I think once you've done your homework, you're not going to find that one more perfect setup just by spending another 2 hours. It's better spent doing exercise, hanging out with people you like and love, and yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Awesome. I agree with you 100% on that, by the way.
Yeah.
You meditate?
I don't. It's been something that I've wanted to get into. I had a friend send me an app that he likes, but I haven't tried it yet. How about you?
All right. I've tried it in the past. It's not bad, but it's not. I don't enjoy it that much either. So
Right,
I'd rather do things I enjoy. So
right,
not so
right.
much anymore. Um, so let's see. Okay. And what do you do, or do you do anything to help kind of fortify yourself for the mental toughness that's needed for trading? Because you know, paper cuts. Everyone talks about paper cuts, but after a while, those hurt a little bit. So what do you do
Absolutely.
to take care of that?
I don't know if I do anything specific. I have played sports all my life, which I think helps with that.
Mhm.
Um, I've gotten used to losing games. I mean, or having injuries and having to work through those. And I've always been pretty composed and been able to be a little bit objective with my emotions, and especially when you're in a high competitive atmosphere like sports or trading. So I don't know if I do anything specifically, but I have through sports and through other activities kind of built up um, and realized kind of what I need to do to make sure I'm staying focused and staying objective as possible, even during a pretty stressful situation. Like I was a pitcher in high school, and you have to keep your emotions in check, otherwise it's not going to go well. And also, when you make an error in baseball, the next ball's coming right at you, even faster than the last one. So you have to be ready for that next play, next pitch, next at bat, whatever. So I think sports has definitely helped me. But I don't do anything. I don't do anything specific to really train myself, I don't think.
Gotcha. So just through your experiences, you've kind of had a tougher skin,
Yeah.
for lack of a
Yeah.
better word. All right, cool. So let's talk about your trading more specifically.
Sure.
Okay. So what is your time frame that you like to trade on? Because I think that's probably one of the most important things that we could define on Twitter is our time frames. Because you see so many fights that happen where somebody's a day trader and somebody's a swing trader, and
Right.
They're two different setups.
Right. I would put myself kind of in between swing trading and position trading. I think I am trying to get more towards that position trading. But in terms of my holding periods, I'm trying to hold my winners as long as possible and ideally get stopped out on my losers that first day. I think on average, my holding period for winners is probably a few weeks to maybe a month. I am trying to get that longer, as I said, and my loser is probably just a few days, at most a week. In terms of time frame, I mostly trade on daily, weekly, 65-minute and 15-minute charts. That's just kind of what works for me. I try to find the overall setups on a weekly and daily, and then go intraday to kind of get a little bit more precision for my entries and exits and all that.
Gotcha. And do you and so what do you normally risk on any particular trade?
Good question. And I think this is very important for people to know. So I was taught in Dr. Wish's class to shoot for 0.5% risk of capital. That's of the total portfolio on any one trade. So if you're trading with 100K, that's $500. And that way, like you said, even if you have a bunch of paper cuts, it's not going to hurt you too badly. And if you do get a nice winner and add to it, managing your risk, of course, that can easily pay for all those small 0.5% losses. So I think 0.5%, I will go 0.5% is kind of my goal. I think anywhere between 0.5% and 1% is kind of what I actually do, depending on the setup and my conviction and how I'm trading recently, basically.
Gotcha. And do you let time stop you out ever? If something's just grinding sideways, what do you do with that?
You're reminding me of AMD recently. I mean, AMD just crawling. I don't think I let time stop me out too much. I don't have a set time stop in my rules. But I mean, if you're sitting in the stock and you don't have that much of a gain in it, it's not really a high performer yet for you. I think I will kind of take that capital somewhere else and look for another setup that's maybe got higher relative strength. Because I mean, you've got two risks. You've got risk of losing money and also a loss of time, where basically better stuff is happening there, which you could make money on. So I think my answer is I don't have a specific rule about it, but yeah, I think I do have a kind of mental stop. If something doesn't work a week or two in, I'll look for a better opportunity.
So you're cognizant of opportunity costs within your
Right.
trading account.
Absolutely.
All right. And how much do you risk as far as, I'm sorry, position size? What
Right.
is your position size before we get on to that?
Right. My starting position size is about 10%, my first initial buy usually. And that's in a good bull market, strong uptrend. I've been trading well. Then I'll try to usually add a little bit to that initial buy if it continues to act well and follow through maybe that first day or the next day through another pivot. So I think my initial buy is 10%. Then I'll add maybe 5% to that. And kind of my max position size is about 20-25%. That's what I'm most comfortable with. Higher than that, it's a little bit too much for my own personal risk profile. But I do want to concentrate as much as I can in the best stocks, in the best groups in this market.
Yeah, excellent. And do you normally buy pre-market, on open, on close? When do you like to buy? Or do you care?
No, it's a good question. I don't buy pre-market. I've never done that, or really post-market. I will buy at any time throughout the day. I try to avoid the first 30 minutes if possible, but sometimes things are breaking out on volume and you got to pull the trigger. I mean, that's the only time where it's going to happen. Like for instance, today I bought TTD, the trade desk. I think it broke out the first 6 minutes of the day, and that's when a lot of the best growth stocks are moving. I'm able to watch the market the first few minutes, the first half hour. Not everybody is able to do that. I know, Jack, you work full time. I guess that's my style. I'll buy and sell whatever time during the day, but I don't really trade pre or post market.
All right, perfect. All right, so why don't we go ahead and share screens, and do you want to show me like a premier setup, something that just really catches your eye and what you see in it?
Sure. Can you enable sharing?
Yeah, I'm going to do it right now.
And do you want a past trade, like an example of a trade that I've done, or?
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you want to show us is fine.
Okay.
I'll make you the host. Yes.
That didn't mess up your recording, did it?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's go to Zillow, and let me draw some arrows real quick. All right, sure. So can you see my screen, Jack?
Yes.
Okay, so Zillow was kind of a good example of a prime setup here. And do you want me to quickly go through kind of my layout here on
Sure.
TC2000?
Perfect.
Sure. So I've got a couple moving averages here, the 10 simple, the 21 exponential, the 50 simple, the 200 simple. I've got the relative strength line here. The pink histograms up here represent basically relative strength new all-time highs within the last 250 days. And the blue ones are price new all-time highs. And down here it might get a little bit too complicated, but they're basically a couple setups that I look for. An oops reversal is yellow, an upside reversal is orange, a 3-bar break is purple, and this red bar basically represents a 3-bar break to the downside, which is kind of negative for my system. So I think Zillow is a good example of what I look for. And this arrow is where I made the trade here. Actually bought it on the next day here. But there was a very strong prior uptrend. I always want to buy a stock in a longer term uptrend above the 200-day moving average that's increasing. And it's set up in a little bit of a pseudo base here. It made a high, broke down, tried to make a high straight off the bottom, got knocked down, and then started tightening up on this right-hand side. And this is really when I get interested in a stock. It's tightening up on below average volume, right against those key moving averages. And I basically bought it through this prior high and then added to it through this high. So it kind of worked right away, which the best trades do. It shot up here, hit the kind of upper Bollinger Band on these 2 days, and then needed to consolidate, moved up. And then I did get shaken out on these days and these days. And a mistake here was I didn't buy it back through this high. I mean, it just skyrocketed, had great earnings, but that's neither here nor there. And that's kind of an example of my biggest mistake that I'm trying to fix here is sticking with a great stock for the longer term trend. So this was a good entry, but my selling is really kind of my weak point here in position management. So that's kind of what I look for: a tight action on below average volume, an explosion up on above average volume, and I want to work immediately, trend above those key moving averages, and continue to ride that trend until it really breaks.
Excellent. Yeah, good looking stock. So that was nice. Now, do you use hard stops or do you have mental stops?
I use hard stops. I try to wait until the end of the day if possible, but I do kind of have I have stops set in with my broker that will get me out intraday if stuff really breaks down.
I gotcha. So you have like really safety net stops, like well below type of thing.
Yeah, and then I'll have alerts set that when it's breaking key levels, I'll maybe
Gotcha.
decide to set to sell basically half my position, a third of position, whatever it is to keep my risk in check. I think it's always good to have hard stops in place with your broker. I know people like to wait until the end of the day, but there's been times where I haven't been able to access the website, and you want to be able to protect yourself in times like that. I know TD Ameritrade has had issues, so I think hard stops for me are the way to go, especially to make sure I protect myself over the long term.
Gotcha. All right. And so you kind of talked about this just a little bit, but what are your trading demons? We all have them. So what are yours?
Right. And there's a good example here. Neo. Again, I think my buying is pretty good, pretty spot on, but I definitely sell strong stocks too early. I get shaken out of any of these stocks over here. I've probably gotten shaken out of at some point over the past 12 months. So I think my biggest demon is selling too early and selling when the longer term trend is still intact, but there's some intermediate weakness due to market pressure. So something I'm working on is basically forcing myself to not sell until there's 2 closes below the 21 EMA. So that's kind of how I'm trying to address this, but it is still pretty tough when you see your P&L, it's dropping intraday, all the stocks fall at once. And I've allowed myself to basically sell half if it's above the 21 EMA, but I'm trying to really stick with that rule, and also add back to a stock if I do get shaken out and it continues the uptrend. So that's kind of my biggest demon: selling too early, and the rules that I'm trying to implement to address it.
Excellent. All right. And so, what do you think caused you not to adhere to your rules?
Right. I think it's emotions that we all deal with. It's FOMO. It's all of that. I'm pretty good at not just buying a stock because somebody mentions on Twitter, but selling, I think, is my issue. I do sell a little bit too early if my overall portfolio is experiencing some drawdowns. So I think it's emotions. We all have to deal with them, and I really try to adhere to my rules as much as possible. But sometimes, everything drops at the same time. Things are gapping down, and you have to try to stay cool as much as possible. But there are some times where you have to manage your risk, and sometimes you do have to break your rules a little bit to manage that risk to make sure you're not losing too much.
Gotcha. All right. And then if there is a poor trade, and we all have poor trades at times, how do you get over that? Is there any self-talk that you do or anything like that?
Yeah, good question. And I brought up Fastly here because this is probably my worst trade of 2020. Not so much because I broke my rules. I think I follow my rules pretty well here, but I got in here, got hit with this gap down, built a position up here, got hit with this gap down. I think they announced revenues that morning or something like that. And I sold right at the open, which followed my rules. However, this did affect me mentally for the next few weeks and months or so, and it was hard to find that confidence again to be able to pull the trigger on stuff because I just felt a 50% gain got a 7% loss. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. And everybody, probably a lot of people got hit with this. Probably not as hard as I did, but it happens to everybody to some extent. These type of situations will happen if you trade growth stocks. Unexpected things happen. You have to adhere to your rules, which I did. I sold at the open, cut that loss as short as I could, and try to move on. But like I said, I did feel it affect me for the next few weeks. I traded smaller when I was feeling I was kind of out of touch with the market, not in sync with things, and kind of built up that confidence again by getting some wins. And I think trading smaller when you feel out of sync with things is a good piece of advice. You don't want a revenge trade. I did not try to put this money into some high flying name to get it all back away. That's not going to work out for you. But I did, I think, do the right thing, trade smaller until a few months later when market conditions improved. The stocks that I was buying continued to perform well, and I kind of built up my confidence slowly and try to shake this off my mind. Although it's always good to look back on big drops like this. You have to try to forget them to some extent to make sure you're sticking with your trading mojo.
Perfect. All right, so switching gears, let's talk about social media.
Right.
So we all use Twitter, and so how do you use Twitter to your advantage?
Right. Good question. By the way, Jack, do you want me to stop my sharing my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll stop sharing. Perfect.
Yeah, good question, because I think Twitter can be a benefit, but also definitely a something that can distract you and throw you off course. So Twitter, I use it to collaborate with other people to get ideas, especially on the weekends. Dennis posts some great lists. Blake, Ross, Ray, they all post great lists and screens. Ben posts some fantastic lists, as you do as well. So I kind of look at all those lists, compile them. Have I already looked at those stocks? Are there any ones that kind of fit my personal system? But I do try to avoid it during the trading day because it can throw you off track. People are throwing out tickers. This stock is moving, but they're not all going to fit your system, and they're just distracting you from really refining your process. So all in all, I do try to avoid it when I'm really focusing on putting in trades or managing my positions. If stuff is getting sold, I definitely don't want to be on Twitter. I'm not there to look for guidance. I want to focus on myself and my own style. But I think there is a lot of benefits and a community on Twitter that is very supportive and has a whole bunch of great strategies and methods that you can learn from. Let's see, a good way to kind of limit your FOMO on Twitter, I think, is to make a list of only people that trade your same style. So you can make lists on Twitter. I've got one of kind of my 40 top people to follow that all trade in a very similar manner to myself. And if things are going crazy, things are very hectic, don't go to your main Twitter feed. Only go to that list, click that list, and then immediately there's kind of a filter involved that will kind of get rid of the noise. So in general, Twitter is good for ideas, but you want to limit that noise when it's going to distract you and limit your performance.
Perfect. And I do the same thing. Actually, I only follow like 50 people.
Yeah.
So that's, because and there's great people on Twitter, but if they're a different time frame or they're a different style, right, like you said, it's noise. It's not that they're, it's not fitting what I need it to fit,
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Trader Lion for a second here, because I know that you're new on board with Trader Lion. So tell me about what your role is with them and kind of what you'll be doing with them.
Sure. So it's an opportunity that I'm really excited about. I have fun making videos and writing threads and stuff, helping teach people what I know and what I've learned from webinars, books, the classes that I've taken. So with Trader Lion, it's just kind of an extension of what I've already been doing. I'm basically going to be helping them, helping the company basically produce video content and also blog posts and other videos for their channel, to basically continue doing what I've already been doing on my channel, but in addition, collaborating with Ray and Ross to just put more free content and content for their website out there that hopefully helps people and shortens the learning curve. So I'm really excited to be a part of Trader Lion. I think it's a great group of people, and we've got a lot of great stuff coming out. We've got the free basically templates for TradingView, TC2000 stock charts that I think will set people on the right path of not just focusing on indicators, but really focusing on the price action, which I think kind of distracts a lot of people who are very new to this. They're looking for the magic indicator, but instead relative strength, price in action, volume, that's really all you need. I know you know that, Jack, because from your charts, you like to keep it simple. So yeah, and it's been awesome seeing all the blog posts that have been written by different guests. And I think it's just a great opportunity for myself to learn from Ross and Ray, and also to hopefully spread a little bit of that knowledge out to other people as well.
I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to be producing. So that's awesome. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, so let's move on to post analysis. Do you do post analysis?
I do. I try to do it every 6 months. I haven't finished my my end of year, which I have to do that. But in general, I try to calculate my average gain, average loss, holding period for gains and losses, and also take a look at my biggest wins and also my biggest losses from the year. So we already looked at Fastly. That was one of my biggest losses, but I think it's so important to at least a little bit look at your biggest winners and biggest losses, identify common things that you are doing right and wrong, and finding out the truth in your trading. Because if you look back at the orders and you're like, why did I buy here? What setup did that meet? You have to refine your rules a little bit and make sure that you're being consistent and trading with an edge, not just buying because somebody on Twitter says it's going to the moon, Right. So I love marking up charts and kind of looking at where I bought and sold. I posted a couple of them on Twitter. And also I like to study the greatest winners that I missed or misplayed, because you can learn so much by looking at a Roku that you didn't really catch any of it, and kind of realize that you have to change your system a little bit to make sure that that stock is coming up on your radar. And basically you have to adhere to this moving average to play it the entire way. And basically look for ways that your own system can wiggle yourself into those type of stocks.
Awesome. And do you keep a P&L, weekly or daily P&L for each trade?
I do not. It's something that I'm working on journaling. I've started a process, but I don't have a full full thing set up just yet, but it's definitely something that I'm working on, and it is definitely beneficial for everybody who does it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So I just have a couple more questions, and then we're going to
Sure.
wrap this up. Okay. Actually, they're
Yeah.
not from me. I'm going to try this and see if this works. Hold on one second. Let's see. Tell me if you can see this. Okay.
Do you want me to make you host?
Okay. Can you see this or no?
Not yet.
Okay. So I'm going to try that again. Give me one second. Yeah, make me host if you can.
Yeah, no problem. Boom.
Okay. So let me see if you can see this now. Can you see that now or no?
Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah, maybe not. Let's try this one more time. This is gonna work, I swear.
No rush.
Yeah, we're gonna get.
This is what editing's for. Don't worry.
Yeah, editing. What's that? All right. Boom. Now I'm gonna share my screen like this. I think this is going to work. Can you see
Yep.
this?
There we go. It's coming up. Oh, hey, Karen.
Hi, Richard. My favorite thing to do is hang out in the kitchen and make delicious meals for my family. What's your favorite meal to make?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not too big into cooking. I like baking a lot, so I like helping out my dad make pies and brownies and that type of thing. So I'm much more of a baker than a cook, and the people who know that pretty well.
Gotcha. All right, perfect. And the next one up, hold on.
Hi Richard, it's Lauren. As you know, I'm going off to college soon, and I was wondering what were your 3 tips for college survival?
What was the end of that question?
What was your 3 tips for college survival?
Ooh, awesome. Well, good luck, Lauren. It's going to be awesome. I think you have to go out there and try to make friends. I was lucky to meet some great friends at orientation. So try to be open and sociable, and go to different groups and activities that you really enjoy. I think that's a great tip. Um, outside of that, go to class. It might seem simple, but it's a lot easier to pass the exams if you go to class and take diligent notes. Let's see. Tip number 3. Go to the gym, eat right. I mean, stay on top of mental health as well. That's incredibly important. It can be a crazy experience going off and living kind of by yourself for the first time. So stay connected with family is a good one as well. But mental and physical health, I think, is something that helps out all these different aspects of your life. And best of luck.
And oops, hold on, one more. Can you still see him?
Hi, Richard.
Yep.
It's Emily. I was just wondering what your favorite fictional book was.
Ooh, fictional book. I think that's got to be Ready Player One, which is about a boy who's living in a post-apocalyptic world, and basically everybody connects by this virtual reality, which I think is super cool. And he goes on a nice quest. So I think that's my all-time favorite. But there's a bunch of ones in there as well.
Perfect. All right. And for some reason, I lost your picture. But
Do you want to make me host, and I can
yeah, there you go.
stop sharing? That's your family, right?
That's my family. That's
awesome.
Karen, Lauren, and Emily. You got it. All right, you should be
Thank
host
them for
now.
the questions for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I think you're host now, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
There we go.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So Richard, thank you so much for being on board with this. Excellent that you were my first one. I hope you had a good time. I know I did. And again, appreciate you being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Jack. I hope I wasn't too boring or anything. It was an honor to be your first guest, and I really look forward to the rest of the series and all the different awesome people who you bring on. I think mindset and learning the backgrounds of different traders is so important and helpful, especially for people who are just starting out. So thanks for having me on, Jack.
No problem. Take care, Richard.
Yep. Bye. Cool.
One second.